Have you ever thought of Mario Kart tracks that should just never return? I have. Nintendo has been sticking with a formula that absolutely works. Release a Mario Kart game with tracks that are new, along with a collection of tracks that have been remade from previous iterations of the game. Mario Kart fans love this, but let's be real. There are some tracks that should just never return. I'm talking to you, Toad Circuit. I came up with a list of 8 tracks I never ever ever want to see in Mario Kart again, and I'll explain why. And first up, I'm starting off with Frappe Snowland? Frappe Snowland? I actually don't know how to say this, but it's that track from Nintendo 64 with the snowmen. And many of you probably recognize this as the Don't Touch the Snowman track, otherwise you blow up. In my younger days, I actually liked this track a lot, and as I've gotten older, I started appreciating it less and less. And during my recent playthrough in Mario Kart DS, where this track was ported over, I started disliking it even more. The reason being, it just doesn't fit in with the modern times. While it would be fun seeing people online hit snowmen and just blowing up left and right, heavy Lakitu enforcement is needed to make this track even drivable. Because if he isn't there, then mushroom shortcuts would run rampant at this course. The cave section at the end does lead to some wild moments, but the fire flower in today's game would just absolutely melt your opponents in the narrow corridors. And don't even get me started with a bomb, you would have nowhere to go. Frappe Snowland, which I don't know how to pronounce, was a good track for its time, but we don't need to see it again. Next on my list is Koopa Beach 2, which debuted in the Special Cup of the original Mario Kart game. I've never been a fan of this track, and now it's even more obsolete than ever. The challenge of Koopa Beach 2 was to avoid the deep water sections because at the time you couldn't drive in deep water. You could drive on the sand, but that was slower and you had grass to navigate. But now that you can drive underwater, I'm not sure what the purpose of this track would be anymore. They did pretty it up in Mario Kart Tour, so maybe some of you like that. It's a very short course too, so you probably need more than 3 laps. In modern times, it would be the baby park of beach tracks. I suppose Nintendo could revamp this track completely and still call it Koopa Beach 2, but in this iteration, I don't want to see it again. It does have nice chillaxing music, I'll give it that. Apparently, I'm not a fan of snowy levels from Mario Kart 64 because that version of Sherbet Land should never return. And you have to appreciate how tracks are named because this version of Sherbet Land is different than the one we see in Mario Kart Double Dash, which is now in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. I always despised this track in my younger years because it's boring and wonky. The penguins literally are in your way pretty much at all times. It's super easy to hit them. And driving in the water is cold. So cold, in fact, that it turns you into an ice cube. These days with tighter controls, I doubt many would drive into the icy water, so it's kind of pointless. But back in the day, it was actually pretty easy because it was a slippery mess. The newer version of Sherbert Land is much better and in my opinion is a very underrated track. There's no need to bring the original version of Sherbert Land back. But I suppose they could add a ramp here so you can visit that penguin to make things interesting. If Nintendo did that, I'll change my mind of how I feel about the original version of Sherbert Land. Now I can't wait for the Mario Kart Wii fans to just despise me in the comments, but I actually think there's only one track from Mario Kart Wii that's a big letdown. And that is the Wii's version of Mario Circuit. For a game that features some of the most fun, wonky, glitchy, and epic tracks in the series, Mario Circuit for the Wii is a total letdown. For whatever reason, this track is just so basic. Maybe Nintendo approached this track with the Mario is a standard dude approach. Having the castle past the start finish line is a cool look, but you can't interact with it like you can in Mario Kart 7, which is a bummer. There are some tight turns, which is standard for a Mario Circuit track, but honestly, I can't remember many memorable races here. This track is about half the size that it needs to be. There's so much to explore here outside of the boundaries that you don't have access to. What a shame. Beach tracks are iconic in Mario Kart. There's Koopa Beach, Shy Guy Beach, Cheep Cheep Beach, and yes, even Peach Beach. And I'm kind of over all the beaches that we see. Peach Beach from Double Dash, which was also in Mario Kart Wii, should not return. Don't get me wrong, I loved playing some Peach Beach growing up. I would even take the unnecessary warp pipe from time to time to get an extra item. But this track is very boring, maybe because the music puts me to sleep. The big obstacles here are water, which really isn't an obstacle anymore because you can drive underwater, and these bird things that flip you up in the air. And while getting attacked by the birds is so punishing, it's kind of tough to hit them unless you're blind or you're pushed into them. The ending section of this track is very similar to the ending at Cheep Cheep Beach. One beach track is okay for a Mario Kart game, but I don't need 5 of them. Peach Beach should rest easy, being the premier place for relaxation in Double Dash. I had to throw a Bowser's Castle on this list. For those of you that don't know, Mario Kart games used to be flooded with Bowser's lava-filled home. I think they needed an excuse to use lava and that epic rock music, which we all know and love. The reason why I chose Bowser's Castle 1 for this list is it's just too darn basic for the Koopa King. For its time, I suppose it was a fun track, and they remade it in Mario Kart 7, and it didn't blow me away, even though I frequently wanted this track. They also remade it in Mario Kart Tour because Mario Kart will remake practically anything for that game. Bowser's castles have evolved now to the point where they need to be pretty elaborate. Ever since Mario Kart 64, Bowser Castle tracks have been among fan favorites, but in the early days, they were more of a nuisance than beloved. I'm fine with retiring Bowser Castle 1 forever. Figure 8 Circuit from Mario Kart DS might be the most basic Mario Kart track ever. I actually never hear anyone ever mention it. It's just a track that you drive on to get used to the game, and nothing more. There's a crowd on both sides cheering you on, giving you the Luigi Raceway and Mario Kart Stadium vibes, but I'm not sure they are enjoying the action here. There's really not much to speak about with this track. You got a couple turns and long straights, and that's it. At least Excite Bike and Sky High Sunday, which are simple tracks, give you exciting jumps and action to keep you engaged. It's easy to fall asleep behind the wheel at Figure 8 Circuit. I really want to comment more on this track, but I really don't know how to. So I'll leave you with this fun fact. According to the Super Mario Wiki, Figure 8 Circuit is the only circuit track in the Mario Kart series that is not associated with a character. Finally, let's end with the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe track that doesn't really stand out to me, and that track is Water Park. It is such a basic name for such a basic track. Nintendo pushed Water Park into the Mushroom Cup to give players a sense of what it's like driving underwater. And it's fine and fun, but I could really care less if I saw this track again. The shortcut is kind of lame, and honestly, driving underwater is just a gimmick that you hardly notice after playing 950 plus hours of this game like I have. When Mario Kart 9 ever comes out, there are so many other Mario Kart 8 Deluxe tracks that I would pick to be ported over than this one. Electrodrome, Cloudtop Cruise, and Sunshine Airport are just a few examples of that. Water Park is fine. It really is, but it doesn't stand out. And in a series full of tracks that stand out, Water Park is one that could use an early retirement. So what did you think of my list? As I end this video, I want to hear from you. What are tracks throughout Mario Kart history that you think should just be retired altogether? We often talk about what needs to come back, but we never sit down and think about what is better left age in history. I thank you for watching. Take care and see you later.